Welcome on Point Blank, platform where we discuss issues confronting Africa. My name is Ricky Brown and I am your host. Commonwealth. The origins of the Commonwealth lies Britain's colonial past. The Commonwealth comprises of both small and big, rich and poor, developed and developing countries over 6 continents with 2 billion citizens of different faiths and ethnicities. The Commonwealth countries are collectively responsible for 20% of the world's trade, about 20% of investment, and approximately 20% of the world's GDP, with £2 trillion in trade each year. But the question is, how relevant is the Commonwealth to the third world country? Do African countries in the Commonwealth still need it? Well, we are yet to see. On the platform or on the discussing table this evening, I have Mr. Prince Achampong, a medic with special interest in African development.
Thank you.
Madam Aban, or Mrs. Aban, a radio host and business entrepreneur. And I have Mr. Doji Numekebo, a political analyst, and Mr. Kusi Frimpong, a social analyst. Gentlemen, welcome on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Taking it from the scratch, let's look into it. What at all is the benefits of the Commonwealth? If I should start from you, Prince.
The Commonwealth has been very beneficial, especially to developing countries. There's one more thing I would like to add to the stats that you provided. It's been stipulated by 2017, the GDP from the Commonwealth member nations would increase by 7.3%. So adding that to the one you gave earlier, I mean, says a lot about what the Commonwealth can provide. In terms of what we or developing countries gain from the Commonwealth, I would like to mention one big part. I mean, the other panel members might disagree, but it's something we are really benefiting from. If you look at the CSC, which is the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, between the 50s and now, it's given up to about 30,000 scholarships to students from developing countries. Out of this, 25,000 out of these 30,000 scholarships from the Commonwealth as a whole, 25,000 of that came from the British people, right? And so, even if one person from each member state is being given the opportunity to study abroad and come back to our nation, this will contribute immensely towards the development of these African countries. Not to talk about the gains, not to talk about the gains that, interacting with these developed nations will bring to Africa. So it's huge. And I'd like to, add to it by quoting something Aristotle said many years ago. He said, we are what we repeatedly do, and excellence is not an act, but a habit. Now, if we've been given the platform to interact with these developed people, we can learn from them. They can teach us. They can show us how they got to where they are now. And that in its own is unmeasurable.
Well, thank you very much for that, Prince. If I come to you, Mrs. Aban, do African countries at all need Commonwealth? Do we need it?
We do.
We do. Tell us why we do.
We do. And I will go on to our Royal Highness, the Queen.
Right.
On 21st of April 1947, her 21st birthday, Her Majesty was with her parents and younger sister, Princess Margaret, on a tour of South Africa. In a speech broadcast on the radio from Cape Town, she said to the people of the Commonwealth, "I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and the service of our great imperial family, to which we all belong." And
But sorry to just jump in again. Whether her life is short or long,
Long.
she is devoting her life for Commonwealth. But do we see that? For me, I don't feel that. I don't see that. The only time as an African I get to know of Commonwealth affairs, only when there's major elections in African countries, they send observers, and when there's Commonwealth games. Apart from these two instances, I don't really feel the Commonwealth.
you don't. And it comes from your leadership. Because this is a woman, our Royal Highness, who has dedicated her life. There are so many people who are also benefiting. And the reason maybe Africa is feeling that Africa is not benefiting is that probably Africa is not asking the right questions. Probably Africa is not targeting the right areas for help. And if you go in and sit around like I am Africa and sit around without asking and pushing for the right help, nobody will bring you the white flag. And I believe because of that, most Africans would think that we are not benefiting. And it's all because the leadership in Africa may not be asking and pushing for the right help.
Right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Aban. Right. Based on what Mrs. Aban just said, if I should come to you, Mr. Numekabo, is there anything that you think African leaders or member states of the Commonwealth should do in order to reap the full benefit of the Commonwealth Union at all?
Well, thank you very much. I think that, when you belong to an organization, okay, you belong to it so that every member of the organization would benefit equally and mutually. If you have an organization or a union or a friendship where you are always expecting from somebody, or the organization has been structured in such a way that the only way you get to benefit is to look up, I wouldn't say there is nothing beneficial in there. And I'd come to the main points. I mean, the earlier speakers spoke about scholarships and the Queen making statements to say that, oh, we all belong to a union. You see, this is my opinion of the Commonwealth. It does not benefit African countries in any way, or the smaller countries in any way, because Britain just sees it as a group of about 48 or 50 something, 53 countries, where he is the big brother and they are the smaller ones. I mean, if he needs raw materials, he goes to get it, and then in return, he throws some scholarship, as Prince said, or some form of protection, or probably if Britain wants to open up military bases somewhere in Africa, that there's freedom. You see, what I think African countries or other members, I'll be speaking primarily from the African perspective. I think that the Commonwealth has lost its relevance.
How?
Because it was formed just on the heels of the Second World War, where African countries Britain recruited soldiers from Ghana, Nigeria, and other African countries to go help them fight in Burma. Yeah. And after the war, Britain started and thought that, look, I don't have to let these people go. Okay, let's form an organization called the Commonwealth. Then I'll be the head.
But not only African member states.
Well, of course.
There's Canada involved, the Pacific, like Australia, New Zealand, all of them are involved.
Of course, do not forget that the Queen is still the head of Canada.
Of course, yes.
So I'm coming back to that point. So the point I am making is that African countries should concentrate on strengthening the AU and sub-regional bodies like ECOWAS, because those are the organizations, those are the unions that can benefit them economically, politically, socially, and everything. With Britain, boss, tell me, what exactly does the smaller countries get? Scholarships? You cannot, you see, are you honestly?
Well, myself, when I was going through this, I came across lots of things, and I will agree in that what Mrs. Aban said. Maybe the people involved, our political leaders, are not asking the right questions.
What questions should they be asking? Look, every country in the Commonwealth is independent.
Right. And let me just give you this instance. There used to be a platform where African countries, when they finish universities, they are given 2-year work permit to come to UK. It stopped. Why? And it stopped. Not all, it hasn't stopped for all African member states. Some member states are still benefiting from it because maybe their leaders ask the right question.
The point I'm making is, I mean, why should young people even leave Africa and say they are coming to? I mean, well, I'm here.
Right.
And then if conditions back home, were okay, if our leaders, if other leaders of the Commonwealth, like my own leaders, if they had created the enabling environment for us to make life better for ourselves, why would we even bother coming to live in the UK? The point I'm making is that, you see, let us not look at the benefits of the Commonwealth in terms of scholarships, in terms of giving 2-year working holiday visa for young people to travel to Britain. You need to look at the Commonwealth in terms of the economic benefit, not just to one, not just to Britain. You see, in return for those scholarships, you ask yourself now, what does Britain get from the other Commonwealth countries? Go to the UKTI, the United Kingdom Trade and Investment website. They see the other smaller countries of the Commonwealth as ready markets for their goods. So in terms of the economics, Britain gets so much, billions of pounds. So if I get 20 billion pounds for coming to dump goods on your market, and in return I throw scholarships at you, that is just a fraction of what I get from being the head of the Commonwealth. Let me land. From being the head of the Commonwealth. So you realize that in terms of the trade dynamics, in terms of the economic dynamics, Britain would be very, very fine with the Commonwealth arrangements. But the question we need to be asking ourselves is that in terms of the economics, what are the other smaller countries getting from this union? And I made the point earlier that you don't belong to a union where one person benefits more from the other. There is no a union. It is more like a master-servant relationship. And that is what has become of the Commonwealth.
That will come on
Who
it.
negotiates the deals? Who negotiates for
Well,
Britain to benefit?
I for one would like to start from the beginning, where this whole idea started. When the Commonwealth was formed, I think it was just a body. It wasn't
just a body.
It was an association.
Yeah.
It had no like governing organs, and Nkrumah, our own leader, and one other leader from Uganda called Milton Obote of Uganda, together with the then Prime Minister of this country, and I'm sure you remember, Alec Douglas Home.
Yeah.
They sat down. Actually, it was Nkrumah who said, look, for the fear that England or Britain is going to seize power and control the rest of the member states, let's form the Commonwealth Secretariat. And that was formed in 1965. Now, Milton Obote said, look, actually, if you have a governing body, what are the benefits going to be, or who is going to set the precedent for the benefits? And so the Commonwealth Foundation was born. Now, in 1964, between 1964 and 1965, there was a big struggle between these three people as to where to base between Nkrumah, Obote, and Alec Douglas Home.
What year was it?
1966.
Yeah.
As to where the foundation should be based. They didn't want to base
Nkrumah
that.
was overthrown somewhere February 1966.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to be sure where.
That's why I said between 1964 and 66.
Okay.
So
There was a time frame. Isn't something that happened on the day? There was a massive struggle. All because of what Dozie just mentioned. That look, if we keep these two bodies here in London, there will be a time when this whole thing is going to be controlled by the UK, and the other member states wouldn't benefit.
Okay.
So you are right in the sense that look, fine, it didn't work. The power struggle, the fact that they tried to stop this happening didn't work. But who caused it? And as she rightly said, our leaders. So the Commonwealth head of state meetings, which is made up of the government, the presidents of the various countries involved, they haven't done much to prevent this from happening.
Okay.
The smaller member nations.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Smaller member nations.
Coming. Yeah. Coming.
Okay. Basically, this is it. In international politics, right? We have the UN, which is in charge of world peace and security as its main mandate. You have the European Union, which started as European Steel Corporation and all that. Okay. And with the Commonwealth, when Ireland moved away from the UK, Canada had their independence, and Australia. I'm mentioning these countries, and New Zealand. These are at the topmost. There are two structures of the Commonwealth, if you put it this way. Yeah, we have these countries that has the Queen as their heads of states.
Right.
You know, Canada, New Zealand,
And actually,
Australia.
at the moment, about 13 countries.
No,
in
no,
the
Those are
Commonwealth with
dominions.
the-
Those
yeah.
are dominions.
Yeah.
So I'm just making those independent countries as the main focal point. I'll come to the British territories because they are still under whatever foreign policies the UK has. But I'm talking about these other independent countries, which are the main power brokers: New Zealand, Australia, Canada. The Queen has or still retains that leadership. If you look at it, you did mention the working holiday arrangement. Okay.
Right.
This working holiday thing started with these core countries that I've mentioned, where the youth of these countries from 18 years to 30 years could travel and, work in these countries. It was a scheme that they arranged between themselves. Then India and Pakistan also started having that voice, and they were like, why can't also the youth from our countries come into it? It wasn't until later that African countries, spearheaded by Nigeria, then also came in to say, we also want this. You understand? So I am a beneficiary of that scheme, but at the moment, that scheme is no longer there. They have the youth.
It's no longer there, but
it's
there are some African
There's something
countries
else.
which are still benefiting
No,
from it.
They have the youth mobility scheme.
Okay.
Yeah, you can check with the UKBA website. It's a youth mobility scheme, and countries like Japan, which is not a Commonwealth country, it only has observer status. You have New Zealand, Canada, and all those other countries that I mentioned.
Okay,
who are still benefiting.
shall we just shift the attention
let's try and put this thing in context and in perspective. Okay, we are looking at the benefits.
No, I'm coming. Let me land, please. So these core countries, yeah, with Britain, are mainly the developed countries. Yeah, they are the top tier of the Commonwealth as an organization, and we, the rest, as in developing countries, we don't tend to benefit much from the Commonwealth. We only get the scraps.
Well,
they enjoy the meat.
Is it the fault of the Commonwealth?
No, I'm
or
coming.
the
I'm coming. Right? But at the core of it, does it benefit African countries? This is a simple thing. Every country must have their own national interest.
Exactly.
You see, and it's the job of any leader in any country to advance their own national interest. You understand? Kwame Nkrumah, like you mentioned, Milton Obote, these were stalwarts of Africa. You understand? Nkrumah's main idea was to stop imperialism. So he came up with this idea that we don't want Britain, after independence, when they have lost the empire, to still use the Commonwealth as an appendage to control other countries. You see, so these people were actually advancing the cause of African unity.
And they started asking, you see, Obote and Nkrumah started asking about benefits. Look,
Right.
we need to structure this thing. I mentioned the point earlier. When you belong to an organization and you are talking about benefits, the benefits must cut across. It must not just be on one side. You see, look at Britain's membership of the European Union.
Yeah.
Okay. The first question we need to ask ourselves when we are talking about the Commonwealth is that, what are the benefits? When you look at it, why are we in? Why are you in there? You are there for a purpose. Every country that belongs to the European Union, they are in there for a purpose.
Right.
Day in, day out, they are coming out with policies, laws that would make the European Union beneficial. So, for example, they came out with the Citizen Directive, which makes it possible for every European Union citizen to move in and out for the purposes of trade and business. Is that what we see in the Commonwealth? Why does Britain make it so hard for Ghanaian businessmen to come into Britain?
Well, maybe
You see,
maybe
the second question is
The Commonwealth
this.
is
You see,
not
the
just
second
Britain.
question is this. One of the problems, I'm just giving you an example. One of the problems we face in, let's say, Africa, countries that are in Africa that belong to them. One of the problems they face is capital flight. Profits that they make is so easy to move out of Africa, but it's so difficult for businessmen here
To move money
their
from
profits
here
out.
back home,
The
right.
same does not pertain to business within the European Union. If I go to work in France, it is so easy for me to just bring my profits back to Britain. Why can't Britain make it possible for Commonwealth countries, the smaller Commonwealth countries like Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone,
The reason-
to be able
So you
to,
were
to,
saying
to be
it's
able
up
to
to
move
Britain
to be able to move
the problem is-
exactly.
Look,
because you see, if you are talking about the benefits, if you're talking about
as if Britain doesn't have problems of its own.
Rick, you see, the
Every
issues-
member state
Yeah.
of the Commonwealth has its own problems. They have their internal issues that they are dealing with.
okay.
They have bigger financial problems they are dealing with.
Okay.
Same as these small African countries. So the fact that you can't maximize the benefits of the Commonwealth in your nation doesn't stop Britain from also trying to maximize its benefits.
Thank you very much. You see, we are saying the same thing. So the point you are making is that you see, the question Ricky asked was that what are the benefits of the Commonwealth to the lesser countries?
What are the benefits? But you are saying
should be identified by us to go in for it, because you see, I hear master and servant relationship here.
Right.
And the reason it is so is that we as Africans still feel that we are servants.
But
We do not negotiate.
No, it's not negotiation. You see, when Britain, Mrs. Dada, you see, when Britain makes it so difficult, okay, you see, you don't come to the negotiation table.
I mean, I don't know
when you are going to negotiate,
is centered around Britain.
you see, but they are the head. They are the head.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. Let's take Britain aside.
Give us your example.
Hold on. Kusi Frimpong, come in.
Wait, let me just land. Let me land. Just one point. Let me land. Look, why are we centralizing everything around Britain?
Britain.
Do you know, I understand why.
The smaller, look, I know you understand why. But look, the smaller African countries that we see ourselves as less developed, being part of the Commonwealth, and you mentioned in the beginning that no member state has superior powers over the other. Okay, so these smaller countries, if Britain is deciding to say, okay, fine, we are reaping all we can from Africa. In between the smaller African countries, what have we done amongst ourselves to show that even we down there who are struggling, what have you put in place to try and help each other?
Okay, go.
You landed. All right. There's this misconception that is around here on this table. Okay, first and foremost, the Commonwealth is not a political union.
It's a club.
You see, it is not an economic union, right? It is not a federation. It is not a confederation. Right. None of those things apply. It is not a military organization like NATO.
It's a friendship.
You see, it is a friendship,
right,
based on past ties, on history, culture, language, common legal system, and common political system. You see, so the main core issue with the Commonwealth Charter is to advance and promote democracy, human rights, and good governance, and sustainable leadership. You understand? So the issue is, we should tackle it from that angle. This is the mandate of the Commonwealth.
Yes.
And the question for an African country is, what benefit have we had from these things we've talked about? You understand? You look at across Africa. We did mention here before that most countries in Africa are actually very stable. You see, there are definitely certain flashpoints where there are conflicts. But believe you me, these conflicts are actually not from the Commonwealth countries in Africa.
Where are they?
True or false?
Well, some you can say true, you can say false, because some of the Commonwealth
there were
countries are still in
there were 16 countries that were colonized by the UK. Yeah, Sierra Leone.
You need not to mention.
No, you understand what I mean. All these countries, with the exception of say maybe Sierra Leone, at a point they had these issues. Yeah, the British military went in there to stop all these things that were happening. You see, though the main idea or main goal of Commonwealth is not a military outpost, but the British Parliament or the British government felt that there was a need to stem these things.
Well, that could be because they are superpowers.
No. You see, they've
always been.
If you look at the history of Sierra Leone, if you look at the history of Sierra Leone,
In which country?
Sierra Leone. In 2003, when Tony Blair was around.
We do know that most British businessmen own.
No. Don't look at it from that side. Yeah. So Sierra Leone had a double issue because slaves from UK and other territories were actually moved to Sierra Leone. So just like Liberia, they do have that sort of other connection besides the Commonwealth. You understand? But let's look at it how many countries, 16 countries in Africa, with a shared Commonwealth heritage, those countries are actually very democratic, if you look at it this way. These countries have actually advanced the goals of the Commonwealth. When Nigeria and Sani Abacha assassinated Ken Saro-Wiwa, they were suspended from the Commonwealth. That meant that any other country that did the same thing, we're also going to face the repercussions. And that comes to the core of, if you lose the membership of Commonwealth, maybe IMF and all those other UN bodies will feel like you're not doing something that is right. So if you look at these things, they've actually gone to
So are you
advance.
trying to tell us we've been conditioned to stay in
We've
the
not been
Commonwealth?
conditioned for anything. You see, when we talk of good governance,
So we've gained a lot from the
We've
Commonwealth.
gained
Okay.
based on the goals of the Commonwealth.
Right.
Commonwealth, to be honest, is not a trade association.
Right.
But then we do trade amongst ourselves. So these are extra benefits we derive from the Commonwealth. But the main issue is good governance, sustainable leadership, democracy. And these are things that those 16 countries, even Mozambique, which was in a former British colony, is now part of the Commonwealth. Rwanda, after Civil War, is now decided to join the Commonwealth. You understand? So these are the things we need to learn, that if we want to advance something else, maybe going forward, these should be the issues we should debate in terms of trade, economics, to make, the Commonwealth another bigger.
Right. Okay.
Well, but then the Commonwealth had a vision and it had a mission as well. And the vision of the Commonwealth reads, a world where every person is able to fully participate in and contribute to the sustainable development of peace and equitable society. Now, the mission also reads, to develop the capacity of civil society to act together and learn from each other, to engage with institutions that shape their professionalism and people's lives.
Exactly.
Has
Are
it not
we
done
going
that in those
towards
16
that
countries?
line?
Exactly.
Are we
Has it not
going
done that for those
towards-
16 countries?
No. You see,
So
when you are talking about
you-
dealing with
just snapped-
people's lives,
Right.
okay, when you are dealing with people's lives,
Yes.
it comes back to the same thing. I mean, if you are asking people to improve their lives, what are you talking about? You are talking about their economics, their finances, everything.
course,
So
basic
you
human
go around,
rights.
you
I
talk
know
about the
that.
human rights, you go talk about this. It comes back to one main thing, that people must feel economically sound.
And that should come from
After-
the leadership of each country.
Thank you very
Because
much.
it cannot come from the
engage,
club members.
to engage with institutions. So the institutions within these developed countries,
Yeah.
and that's why
Not just
earlier on,
developing countries.
wait, that's
All the
why
members.
that's why earlier on I made mention of the fact that how many of the institutions within the somewhat developed countries within, or like when we
You
look
see,
at
we are looking at it. We are looking at the whole
With
thing.
that- with that-
We are looking at the whole. We're looking at the whole thing.
With that, they have helped Swaziland gain momentum in their judiciary, and then Senegal they have helped. Sierra Leone helped
We don't talk about
decentralization
Africa.
and all
But
that.
is that
talking about
true?
those-
Is that true?
You know what?
Is that
Yes,
there is one factor that we have. You see, Obote and Kwame Nkrumah, okay, as far back as 1964, when Britain, I keep mentioning Britain because they came up with the idea. It was formed at their behest. They actually came up with it. Okay,
You're right.
You see, Nkrumah and Obote, when Britain was talking about all these issues of human rights, institutions, human lives, and all these things, Nkrumah realized that, look, you guys, what you are talking about, you are just talking, it's on paper. The real benefits that you want to gain is behind. You are not telling us.
Very true.
Okay?
Right.
So what you have written on paper of human rights and all, listen.
Right.
Let me learn. So that was why Kwame Nkrumah came up and he was telling the British Prime Minister that, boss, really tell us what exactly the benefits are, because there is something you are not telling us. And that is
But when they did the Balfour Declaration, which I will quote, it says the Balfour Declaration adopted in 1926.
Yeah.
It says I'll read it from here. The Balfour Declaration adopted in 1926 Imperial Conference established that the United Kingdom and its dominions were equal in status.
there you go.
Were equal, but we see that.
That's
not
the
very
point
clear.
I am
Up to
making.
you. It's
Oh,
up
but
to
you
you.
see,
There shouldn't be master-slave relationship here.
No,
So
let me
it comes
explain
back to the
this.
thing. You see,
Let me explain that.
we need to go behind the scenes. Okay, don't look at what they have written on
Go
paper
behind the scenes and find what?
Eric.
and find out that there are other things. You see, that's why I keep telling you that the real benefits, okay, Kwame Nkrumah and the rest saw that the real benefits, let's take the 16 African countries that belong to the Commonwealth. Britain find them as ready markets for its goods.
And it is so.
Yes, you see,
Why?
but
Because
the-
make it
you see,
so.
No, it's
And it's also make it so.
Let me finish my one.
Yeah.
You see, it is so ready market.
Yeah.
But so it's up to us
Uh-huh.
to have the negotiation skills and the understanding that we want something for what somebody is taking. If somebody comes to you and say, "Give me this glass," and you're happy to give it without negotiating to benefit you, that person will be happy to take it away. And that is what happens to Africa.
Madam, you see, the negotiating, what happens with negotiation when African countries are negotiating with Britain and other Western countries is that they come to the negotiating table with their hands tied. I'll give you an example. We are talking about markets.
Tied by who?
By the system controlled by Britain.
All right, the system controlled by Britain ties African leaders up. We should take a commercial break and we'll be right back. People, don't go away. Stay tuned. Okay.
Life is an adventure. Sometimes we climb, at times we descend. Sometimes we smile, at times we frown. We laugh sometimes and we cry. These are all the events of life. And we document these events to tell the stories of our life, of where we were and how far we've travelled. Chris Vick Entertainment is a video production company that can capture these events of life and package it on a DVD, be it wedding, christening, birthday, or funeral. Give us a call on 079577 88401 and you'll be glad you did.
Welcome from the commercial break. It's been interesting discussion about the Commonwealth. Let's move on forward. We've talked about the benefits and so on and so forth. But the question remains, what is the way forward for the third world countries, especially African member countries of the Commonwealth? If I start with you, Mrs. Abed, what do we do? What is the way forward out of this situation we have ourselves in with the Commonwealth Union?
The way forward, I see that let's see ourselves as Ghana, one country at a time.
Right.
Because if you take your country, put your plans forward to your friends at the club and ask for help, ask for their expertise. If it be roadworks, railway lines, electrification, housing, whatever, go to the club member who's been able to do it well and ask them to assist you. We tend to start from somewhere and get nowhere.
Right.
And when you look at Africa, it's happening like it's one leader. So we need to be individuals, but learn from those who are able to do it and do it well. Canada is doing it. Canada is part of the Commonwealth.
Right.
Australia is doing it. So if we take two countries like Canada and Australia to copy from, for them to assist us to move forward in a positive way, I think we will benefit. And we will not be angry about the British. British will help if you know what you want. You cannot go to a supermarket with no list. It tends to be that we do things at times with no list. And we go there and think that the boss is always using their powers. They do have the power. We have to recognize that. But they work for it. What are we working for?
What are we working for? Mr. Numekovo, if I come to you, what is the way forward?
Well, I mean, I think the way forward is for the least developed countries of the Commonwealth to begin to look within. I mean, I do not really buy all this argument about human rights, and because in this day and age, we really shouldn't be talking about human rights, okay? We need to elevate the debate, we need to elevate the discussion and talk about issues that will benefit our people. So issues of human rights, building of institutions and all these things, African countries should really not be talking about some of these issues.
But Africa needs institutions, because I remember Barack Obama once said, Africa don't need strong men, Africa needs strong institutions. That means our institution is weak. So Africa needs institutions.
But yes, I do understand that we need institutions. The
Right.
point I'm making is that, you see, institutions do not make themselves.
Of course,
It
men
is
make
men make
institutions.
institutions. Okay, so men must decide to make institutions. Men must decide to reform themselves to the point where we shouldn't really be having issues of human rights in Africa, where you go to Uganda and opposition political parties are being hounded, they are not being given their rights. You go to Burundi and there is chaos on the streets because one president wants to extend the
stay in power and all
change
that.
the constitution. You see, those are the things that lead to carnage on the streets, and then you start talking about human rights. The point I am making is that we have reached the stage in our development where issues of that nature should be relegated to the background. We should have stopped talking about human rights ages ago.
But human rights,
exactly,
it's not working.
Now, you
so
see,
we can't graduate from class 1 to 2 if you haven't done your assignment in class 1.
Exactly. So we still have to talk about it. So the point I am making is that,
right.
You see, human rights is about respecting the rights of people.
The rights of the people is being respected?
Wait.
It's not respected.
You do not need to belong to the Commonwealth
Of
to
course.
respect the rights. So if you do not need to belong to an organization, the Commonwealth, to respect the rights of your people, it means you do not have any business being in that organization. So I'm saying that it is not relevant. You do not need the Commonwealth.
So shall we even quit the Commonwealth then?
You have to quit. You see, African countries must quit and concentrate more on building their own local organizations like ECOWAS, like the African Union, and begin to look at issues like Madam Aban said, that we need to look within ourselves. You see, that is why the AU came up with something called the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, where African countries gauge themselves so that a country like Nigeria or Sierra Leone would look at Ghana and say, okay, Ghana, you have held about 5-6 elections, successful elections, back to back since 1992. How did you do it? So that we learn from you. You do not need to belong to an organization headed by Britain in order to learn from Ghana. We need to learn from one another. So the point I am making is that the Commonwealth is not relevant. What is relevant is our sub-regional organizations where we can learn from each other and build. The second point I want to make goes back to the points made earlier about Kwame Nkrumah and Obote asking the British Prime Minister what benefits there are for the lesser countries. Kwame Nkrumah saw that what the people wrote on paper was not what they meant. There were other benefits. You see, Britain comes in under the guise of, countries like Canada, Britain, and the rest, they come in under the guise of human rights and institutions and all these things to champion a much bigger agenda.
Right.
Those guys saw that, and they are saying that, look, boss, really and truly, we are not going to benefit from this thing. The same questions remain today. So the lesser countries will have to go behind the scenes and look at what benefits the other countries are enjoying. And you realize that there are economic benefits and other things. They can still enjoy them if they make Commonwealth and if they make ECOWAS and the AU work. So the point I am making is that these small countries who think that there is something to be gained from being part of the Commonwealth, they should forget that ideology. It won't work. They should look within for solutions to their problems. That is all I'm saying.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Numekebo. Mr. Frimpong, what should we do? We find ourselves in the Commonwealth. Should we quit? Should we move on? Should we stay?
You see, if you look at international organizations, right, United Nations have their own issues. You see, for the Oil for Food program, there was corruption. FIFA has its own issues. But there's not been any major scandal in terms of the Commonwealth that we can say that, oh, Britain has done this, da. You know what I mean? Going forward, I read an article and it goes like, you see, the past is the past, but we can only learn from the past for it to guide us. Nkrumah, Obote, and the rest were coming from a particular time gap. You know what I mean? They were newly independent countries who wanted to be free from the yoke of what? Colonialism. So their mindset was different. 60 years after independence, yeah, whatever it is that Britain wanted or gained from Africa, they have it. You understand what I mean?
But they are still gaining,
No, they will gain
according
it.
to Mr. Numekebo.
Yeah, in a way, I agree with what he said. I agree with what he said to a level. You see, but if you join a club, it has its own sets, rules, and regulations, and you know what you get from it. You understand? He's at King's College. He knows the prestige that university has. You understand? Wherever he goes, He will say, I'm from King's College. But what we have to understand is, this particular century has its own challenges. Surely, we shouldn't be talking about human rights. Okay? Countries like Canada don't talk about human rights. Countries like Britain don't.
Because human rights are respected.
They are respected. Countries like Ghana, to an extent, Nigeria, South Africa, we are quite okay. But if you look at the new entrants of the Commonwealth, these are Rwanda, these are countries that, even Sri Lanka, they are coming from where? Civil war. So these things do apply to them. You understand? They want these ideals to be something that their whole society can benefit from. Rwanda wasn't part of the British colonial domain, but they do want to join. Mozambique wanted to join, and they are. Japan is an observer.
So,
coming.
Mr. Fimbom,
Right?
what do we do now?
The way forward is
Yes.
this. If you look at the Commonwealth heads of government meeting from Lusaka through to Colombo in 2013, the whole idea is this, yeah? They're actually looking at a way and a mechanism for diplomats within the Commonwealth to travel visa-free. And after that, once that is implemented, they are looking at certain types of businessmen to travel within the Commonwealth visa-free. The reason why this is happening is that, you see, if you look at the world's population, the Commonwealth countries are about 2.5
billion citizens, of course,
which is about a third of the world's population. You cannot run away from such an organization.
Okay.
This organization.
So European African countries should stay.
Yes, because we don't have the numbers, first of all. Yeah, the whole of Africa is 1 billion, and India alone has 1.3 billion, which is more than Africa combined.
Right, Mr. Fimpo, if we are staying, if we are staying with the Commonwealth, what do we then do to get the benefits, or to get what we're supposed to get from it? Because I don't see any relevancy if we are in there and we are not reaping any benefit from it.
The benefits are simple.
Yeah.
You should know what you want to get what you want. You know what I mean? If you know what you want, then when you go, you get it. What does Ghana benefit from the Commonwealth? We need trade. Most of our cocoa, Cadbury gets it. You know what I mean? We use it. But the point is, what do we gain from this?
Yeah.
We should have a market. And if you're looking at 2.5 billion people, and if I'm a business...
We should have a market where?
No, everywhere. The Commonwealth, going forward, this is what it should be about. It should be about trade, apart from all these political things we've talked about. Yeah? Britain, New Zealand, and all these other countries, the bigger boys in the Commonwealth, they do have these trade pacts. Yeah, these are things that we should be.
But I tell you what, the Commonwealth also have supporting countries to reap its international trade. So that means there's a trade bit of it. So why are we not reaping that trade bit of the Commonwealth?
That means that our policymakers are actually a bit timid. They don't want to, use their wider network.
They don't have the skills.
We do have the skill. We do have a skill.
It's not because they don't have the skills. It's not because they don't have the skills. You see, the relationship. The reason why. No. There are no. You see, look.
Because we don't know.
The skills are there.
Right.
Okay. But then the legal and the economic framework would not let you exhibit that skill, and I'll tell you why.
Right.
I
have a question for Mr. Benson.
Yes, please.
You keep going on about Africans coming out of the Commonwealth because the UK is using Africa as a dumping ground for their products.
Yes.
Now, are there no other legal bindings that allow Britain to still do business with Africa apart from the Commonwealth?
The EU,
right? So even without the Commonwealth, they will still trade.
They still do that.
But even that's the point. That's the point. I was going to come to. You see, now we are talking about skills. We're talking about skills and not using them. You see, the whole framework, okay,
right?
The legal and the economic framework has been structured in the way that the lesser countries cannot even
benefit.
You keep
Thank you.
Please answer me. Lesser countries in terms of what?
In terms of Nigeria, in terms of Ghana, in terms of Sri Lanka, in terms of. Let me make the point. Let me make the point.
Developing countries.
Well, you can call them countries, for want of a better word, smaller countries. Smaller countries. You see, for example, you see, I was making a point earlier when I was speaking with Keke, and I was telling him that look, the EU has an agreement called the
economic partnership agreement, okay, where they dump their goods like chicken, anything.
Who negotiates for this?
You see, the point I am making is that the legal framework has been structured the way that you cannot negotiate your point out. And I'll tell you why. Let me tell you why. No. Let me make the point. You see, for example, okay, Britain tells Ghana that, look, don't subsidize your poultry farmers, okay, because we are giving you money for your budget to support your budget, and the money we are giving you, don't use it for subsidies.
Is that through the International Monetary Fund or through the Commonwealth?
The IMF does it. The EU does it. I'm coming. Okay. Let me. Once I land. All right. Okay. So meanwhile, on the other hand,
right. Without the Commonwealth,
farmers in this country are heavily subsidized. So if you compare poultry that is produced in Ghana to poultry that is produced from here, it is much cheaper. So when you go to the market, you don't have a choice. You have to buy the one that is coming from here. That is why poultry farmers in Ghana are running out of business. If Britain really wants people to benefit from the Commonwealth, as they are moving from human rights to trade, they should open the market and say, look, if you are asking Ghana not to subsidize their farmers, don't subsidize your farmers. Create the level playing field for them to compete.
And this is within the Commonwealth
within the
rules.
Commonwealth.
Yes.
Is it within the
It's something
Commonwealth
that
rules?
they should negotiate. You see, Ghana had an advantage where we had our former
Britain knows that if he negotiates that their own farmers will be out of business.
Then
And
negotiate.
he's being greedy.
Right. No,
They are
it's
being
your
greedy.
house. If somebody's not
it's
doing
more
good
like
for
we
you,
said, yeah? We should know what we want to get what we want. You know what I mean? We should know what we want, then we get it. You know what I mean? We had a former foreign minister and attorney general, yeah, which is Betty Modridusu. She worked at the Commonwealth Secretariat. She was within their legal team, yeah. Anytime these agreements were being drafted, she could have come up with these ideas that African countries needed these things. I don't think she did it. So we are where we are. We had a
it all points down to our leaders who represent the various countries
That is the issue.
who are just not
good enough.
asking good questions or what.
I'll tell you something funny. I'll tell you something
in terms
funny.
of the way forward.
I'll tell you another flip side of it.
I'll come to you in a minute, Prince.
I'll tell you another
come
flip
to
side of it. The current trade minister in Ghana, Ekosipio Gabra, yeah, he was in charge of the Commonwealth Telecommunications Organization. And believe you me, yeah, President Kufuor saw that this man was good. He could do something that could be beneficial to Ghana. So he actually, as a country, pushed his nomination forward. When this man was there, you can tell that if you go to Ghana, there's a multiplayer telecommunication playing field. You know what I mean? These are things that came as a result of his resourcefulness. So, be it as it may, we should have people who should be at the international table pushing our agenda.
Okay.
And if you look at the news right now, just this week, Ghana has done what? Brought in some two.
Right. Let's not even.
That should tell you that we are not good negotiators.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
understand what I mean?
All right. Okay.
If we have good people negotiating for us,
Yeah.
we will always
All right.
benefit.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Frimpong. As you said, the past is a guidepost, not a hitching post. So moving on, Prince, what do you think?
Well, I believe nothing ventured, nothing gained. I do, to some extent, agree with what Dozie is trying to say. That, of course, we are not gaining much from the Commonwealth, and so we should come out of it. Right. We should come out of it, and then strengthen the local organizations, such as the
AU and
the
ECOWAS
others.
and all that.
We don't need to come out of the ECOWAS to strengthen that.
Exactly.
We can keep
Still do that.
We can keep that on the side. Strengthen the AU. Have a stronger power within the African community. With that, we can have stronger negotiation terms with the Commonwealth. We don't need to come out. Look, if you read the Queen's speech, the 2015 Commonwealth Day speech, she titled that Younger Commonwealth or Young Commonwealth. That shows you that she, even as a leader, believes that the Commonwealth is still young. And if the Commonwealth is so young, and most of the African members who are part of the Commonwealth are still developing, then we can go with it. Why then do we need to come out? If you look at the 2013 speech, again, she titled it Opportunities Through Enterprise. Okay? The opportunities,
What does that mean?
Opportunities are there.
What does she mean by that?
She meant that, look, it's a daunting step. It's very scary. It's like an ant going to face the elephant. It's something you can't just wake up one day and do. But with the bold step, learning every day, trying to understand how things work day in, day out.
But we've been African countries have been in the Commonwealth for that so many years.
How many years now? It's 75 years.
There you go. And you still call it young.
It's very young.
We are competing with UK, which has been independent for
how many
years?
Yes.
USA has been independent for like
Canada
close to 400.
Yes.
Canada for more than 100
It's like
years.
we are
Ghana is so
learning-
young.
we
If
are
you are
learning
50
to
years
fly.
currently, in
Not
the
even
world, you are
knowing
very
how
young.
to
Very
You're not
young.
old.
No,
In the past, maybe you were older,
Baby
but now
steps. When
you're young.
we jump.
When these people were learning how to build tunnels, our forefathers were learning how to make what? Tools to farm.
Yeah.
So it means that
They've been in the game for a long time. They have the expertise.
Yeah.
They have the good negotiators. They have people who are greedy and always wanting to win and
Yeah.
always wanting to reach.
so with time they will make us win. At some point they will
we
make us
have
win.
to be responsible for our future.
Why are we not talking about
the reason
India?
why
Yes.
can I land?
Why are we not-
Can I land?
Okay.
The reason why I'm saying
Because
this
we focus in
is-
the conversation to the
Eric,
African member
Eric,
states.
Not just that,
the
but
day
I
you
would
told
ask
me,
why.
the day you told me that we're going to be talking about the Commonwealth, okay, I took the pain to visit the website of the Commonwealth agencies within these member countries, and believe you me, what I saw was appalling. A country like Kenya, to contact the Commonwealth Secretariat in Kenya, they've only provided a PO box address, not a website. A country like Ghana, who's been talking about, oh, let's leave the Commonwealth, let's leave the Commonwealth. They only have
I don't think
a
Ghana
PO
said
box.
we want to leave the Commonwealth.
They have a PO box address. The email address there is a personal Gmail account of who? I can give you the name. That goes to a larger extent to show that even us who think we are not benefiting, we are not really putting in the proper measures in place to try and look what benefits are there. Look, if you go to the Commonwealth Secretariat website of Canada, it's just a click away and you find out every information about the Commonwealth that you want.
Yeah, because
why can't we do this?
Okay.
And
Mr. People, make a quick point and then
Gambia
we
left.
move on.
My point is,
Leaving Doji, Gambia left. What has benefited them from leaving? Gambia left.
Yeah, because when they were in there, they were not benefiting. So
And the
Hamas
man
was
is
just
marrying.
going.
Have you not realized this, yeah?
And the man is marrying a 22-year-old
Have you not realized this?
girl.
That the countries
Could that be
that
why
are
he
leaving-
left?
Oh, but I mean, madam, I think
It's
we
a
are.
private issue.
Oh,
But you see,
so
when you do
is he not allowed to marry a 22-year-old? That's the laws of their country.
It's the
speak
laws of
against
the
it.
country. See,
Maybe
when you don't want
if he's still in
anybody
the
to
Commonwealth,
criticize,
you'll be chastised by the
somebody
Oh,
will
really?
not
For marrying a 22-year-old?
you see how beneficial
On fourth wife also.
All right, let's be honest. When the call for apartheid to end and minority rule to end in Rhodesia, that's Zimbabwe, the Commonwealth, through African countries and India and the rest, actually championed that cause. You understand? So today, as we speak, there's no more apartheid, there's no more minority rule in Zimbabwe. Okay, going forward, we can learn from India. India was like 10 years ahead of Ghana in terms of gaining independence. But now India has a GDP of 2 trillion and counting. You understand? India is now becoming a world power. India has nuclear weapons.
Yeah, they go to the space and all that.
Weapons and all that. What is happening to Nigeria? With about the same population of Pakistan. Nigeria, where are we? 419?
Did India get all this because of their membership?
No,
of the
no, no.
Commonwealth?
India did not. But what we are trying to say is this:
We should
India
tap
has
into the
actually tapped
nature
into
of the
their
Commonwealth.
own-
Yeah, that's what.
And
makes
don't
it.
forget-
India has now a bigger economy.
You should have more than Canada.
members.
Yes.
And don't forget that
Canada.
November last year.
And India is still developing.
It's still developing.
And it's the world's largest. You see, put it this way, yeah. There's never
Okay,
been a,
okay,
I'm
okay.
actually going to say this, yeah. There's never been a coup d'etat in India.
from the time they've been independent, they've always practiced democracy.
All right, okay.
How come these are the only developed countries richer than even Canada?
All right, okay. Let's move on. Let's move on. Okay, Prince, I'm going to start from you because and obviously this question, and then you add your last message to it, and then we bring the conversation to an end. Is there more to be done to make this Commonwealth sustainable in your point of view?
I think the African leaders need to do a lot more. And not even that, members of the individual countries need to do more. We should all search for the benefits. Some of the benefits are just for individuals. They are not even for countries or continents as a group. African students can even look to see where some of these benefits are. If you're an athlete, you can watch the previous Commonwealth Games and say, look, I want to be there next year, or the next one that comes up. And you have to work hard for it. And with this in mind, we can really achieve a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. Prince, Mrs. Alban, if I come to you, is there anything you reckon African member states should be doing in order to get this Commonwealth sustainable?
Charity begins at home.
Right.
Let's start from our home, do our homework well. We talk about Commonwealth. When you talk about Commonwealth Games, most are aware of it. Right. Look at our stadiums, our sports stadiums in Africa. And yet, the people do go out and win. So we need the support from the leadership of the African countries to work from home, take care of the young ones, so that they'll be able to compete confidently with the world. When Africans go out to compete, they are always looking at
even
the best.
in the games that really the Commonwealth Games comes out with, only few games that African countries participate.
That's it, because we do not put money behind our people as Africans. So the way forward is to work from home. And if you look at what is happening in Africa, Commonwealth is something good. Right. Because why should we be alone? We are among the trees. Right. So why should we be alone?
So we need friends.
We need friends
of Commonwealth.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Numekebo.
Well, let me agree with the first two speakers on the point that Africa needs to do more. Yes, African leaders must do more, but they can do more by not being part of the Commonwealth, because the Commonwealth has lost its relevance. It has lost its relevance because if you belong to an organization where citizens of some countries, for example, when it comes to the Commonwealth Games, citizens of some countries cannot attend the Commonwealth in Scotland for free. They are denied visas. But you cannot deny their citizens visas when they are coming to your country. I do not see the relevance.
That's very interesting.
I do not see the relevance. I do not see the relevance of such an organization. But yes, African countries must do more. They talked about friends. Do we not have enough friends? There are 53 countries that make up the African Union. Is that not a big union to be part of and be friends? We don't need friends by being part of people who do not respect our rights and do not respect our laws. That's my point.
All right, okay, Mr. Frimpong, your last word, and obviously what you think we need to do to make the Commonwealth sustainable for the member countries of Africa.
Actually, I think everything boils down to the name. Commonwealth is so common and wealth. That means we need to generate something. You know what I mean? Something that is quite sustainable. And if you look at things that are happening, even in the UK, there are so many privileges for Commonwealth citizens. You know, you can stand as a member of parliament if you have the right, say, indefinite leave. And there are Ghanaians in the British Parliament. You see, so if you're looking about effecting change, if you think that British policies are not good, yeah, as a group, yeah, we can start going to parliament and effecting change from there. So when our people back home are negotiating with us, we do know where they are coming from. So there are so many ways where we can actually work, but then it seems that we're a bit timid, and when we are negotiating,
not a bit.
We are. Okay. You see, when we come on the international stage, believe you me, when Mugabe is speaking, everybody listens. Why? Because he has something good to say. You understand? And it shakes up the foundation. But then, to be honest, yeah, Africa has lost its leadership that we once had. We do mention Julius Nyerere, Kwame Nkrumah, and all those. They stood up for something. Even Gaddafi stood up for something. But now, if you ask across board Africa. What are our leaders doing? It's
Okay.
like they are all walking timidly and they don't know.
All right.
And they were brought up by the British. Could it be why?
No.
Education.
If you look at it this way, this guy, what do you call it?
We didn't have
what's the
independence.
president
They
of
were in charge of us.
What's
Right.
the president
Wait,
of? What's the name of that guy?
This can go on and on and on and on. But unfortunately, we have to bring the conversation to an end. But one film actor and a writer of Canada, her name is Naomi Klein. She made a comment that really interests me. She said Africa is poor because its investors and creditors are unspeakably rich. Could that be why Commonwealth is still being, our membership in Commonwealth is still being poor? Well, over to you people. Thank you for watching and see you in the next episode. Thank you.